In the times we are living through right now, stretching every dollar and learning to live more frugally and intentionally is more important than ever. Thankfully, due to generations before us, living through situations like the Great Depression, World War II, the Dust Bowl, and many famines, we're able to glean many tips and tricks for living on less. Living intentionally, shopping smart, and learning as many skills at home as possible can help us save every penny we can, help us to build stronger homes and more resilient families. Prescription medications and over-the-counter medications can be incredibly expensive. I know prescription medications without benefits are unbelievably expensive. Even just over-the-counter Tylenol can be very expensive, and if you have any illness at all, it can be quite the drain on your bank account. No matter as well the drain on your quality of living. So for us at home, I really like to focus on natural remedies, home remedies, and anything that I can grow and turn into a salve or a medicinal herb and tea. Over the years, a good friend of mine and I have gifted each other wonderful herbal remedy books, and I make sure to invite those plants and those flowers into my garden so that I can harvest them, dry them, and create herbal medicine with them to help my family stay as healthy as possible. Today I am harvesting some medicinal herbs as well as some culinary herbs, which happen to also be medicinal. I start off with some sage. I'm tying these in a bundle to air dry in my house in a place that has a lot of airflow. Sage is a wonderful woman's medicine. I use it in tea as well as in cooking. It has a lot of minerals that are really beneficial. Next, I have mother'swort, which is also a beautiful and wonderful plant for women, hence the name mother'swort. It typically, they say, comes at a time when you need it for premenstrual symptoms, for premenopausal symptoms, or menopausal symptoms. It makes a beautiful tea. So I'm just drying these in bundles in my house. Next, I've picked plantain. Plantain is an amazing plant. I know the natives here called it white man's foot because it was brought over on the feet of the white man. But it has some wonderful medicinal properties. It's really, really good for any skin irritations, bug bites, rashes, that sort of thing. So I make sure I bring it in and dry it to get it ready to make a salve. And next, I also have Comfrey. I am also drying this to make a salve, as it's very anti-inflammatory and has wound healing properties in it. As always, with any herbal things, I do urge you to do your own research, get your own books, look at them in the library. The library is a wonderful resource, or the internet. But for me, definitely get your own information. But this is what I do for my family. So I dry them in the dehydrator and I let them dry overnight so that I can make a wonderful salve. I do this for my family once a year, and the amount that I make lasts for the entire year. The plantain one definitely gets used up first, as we go into the forest often, so there are always bug bites or rashes that seem to be happening, or some sort of skin irritation. So the plantain one certainly gets used up. I'm going to try to make extra this year to make sure that it lasts us the entire year. Any sort of creams like that in the drugstore would be worth quite a lot of money. Where I can make it basically free at home, it just costs the amount of the oil that I use. And as I've mentioned before, I also like to skip any ingredients that are questionable, which a lot of the time are in those creams. So I know exactly what I am putting on myself and my children when I'm able to make these at home. I have also moved to making our own toothpaste. I recently was in the store looking for some fluoride-free toothpaste, and the best I could find was $8 for a small tube. I found this to be just ridiculous. The price of that was absurd to me. Where if you were going to get the fluoride toothpaste, it was $2 and $3 depending on the tube size. But the fluoride-free stuff was incredibly expensive. So I decided to do this for my family at home, and it was such a cheap price, where I'm just using coconut oil, baking soda, and a little bit of sweetener. So it makes that little toothpaste about $1 to make, as opposed to $8 for a small tube. And this way, again, I know exactly what my family is ingesting, as well as helping our pocketbook, because the price of things these days is just absurd. As I have mentioned in previous videos, whatever you can do for yourself will always save you money. The second it is a product that is made by somebody else, the price increases. So I try to make sure that I know how to make as much for myself and my family as I possibly can. So adding toothpaste to that list is not a problem for me. Growing our own fruit is also very important to me, as it does save a lot of money. I prefer to have organic fruit and berries for my family, but buying that in the store is incredibly expensive. The prices have just increased, so I have made sure to fill my suburban plot with as many fruit-bearing bushes and trees as I possibly can. This way I can grow as many berries as possible, eat fresh now, and freeze a lot for later over the winter months. Raspberries are one of those fruits that do amazing here, and they are just so prolific and so affordable. Because raspberry plants spread a lot of people will separate them and sell them online, most of the time for $5 for a bunch. And then once you plant those, they will just spread for you. So you don't have to spend a lot to get a lot of raspberries. You just need to plant once and they will spread over the years until you have a magnificent lot of raspberries. And then you know they are fresh and organic and free. There are also a lot of wild raspberries around if you know where to look, at least in our area. I know when I was younger, I have a lot of memories of going up beside our train tracks and picking tons of raspberries. We didn't have raspberries in our backyard, but we were able to get free raspberries from this area. The train track was not working anymore, so it had naturalized with all of these raspberries. So they were fresh and natural and free as well as organic, and they were just the best raspberries ever. So if you do not have room to plant raspberry bushes, try looking for them in natural areas, because you'll be surprised. They like to pop up everywhere, and hopefully you too can find some fresh organic raspberries for free. I have been working a lot with sourdough lately to avoid buying yeast at the stores, as well as to make sure that we are making some gut-healthy bread for my family. With that, I've also ended up with a lot of sourdough discard, so I am always trying to find ways to use that up. A lot of the time, I do that in pancakes. But when I have this fresh fruit, I love to make some sourdough scones. So these are fresh raspberry sourdough scones that I'm making. I did this with strawberries not long ago, and my family absolutely loved them. So now that I have an abundance of raspberries, I thought I would do that with these as well. Being able to bake and to make things on your own for your family can save a ton of money. Buying these sourdough scones in a store, I can imagine would be quite expensive, where I can make them at home for pennies. So I try to make sure I am constantly increasing my skills in the kitchen to make sure that I'm always able to make what my family needs, as opposed to buying it. I reduce waste in the house as much as possible. Everything can be repaired or reused or remade into something else. Recently, we went through a jar of dill pickles and had a lot of dill pickle juice left. I had the end of a cucumber that needed to be used up, so I decided to make some refrigerator pickles, where I just cut up the rest of that cucumber and I toss it in the leftover brine, and I leave it in my fridge for 48 hours or as long as I like, and those will become dill pickle sandwich pickles. If I hadn't used that cucumber up, it would have ended up in the compost, and the dill pickle juice would have been tossed down the drain. But there's no reason to waste either of those things when I can combine them. There's also a lot of other ways to use up dill pickle juice. I know I love to put it in a potato salad as well. If you have other ways that you love to use dill pickle juice, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear them. You guys have wonderful suggestions. I have said many times before how growing a garden is the best thing that you can do to be frugal. And I believe right now that is more important than ever. Food systems are unstable. The prices have skyrocketed with no hope of ever going down again. So having a garden in your yard, whether that is in the ground or in containers, will help your family be as resilient as possible to any coming changes. It helps you to grow food for the price of a seed packet. And once you learn how to save seeds, growing that food becomes absolutely free. And once you've learned how to grow that food, you're going to need to learn to preserve it. Even if you don't have a garden, learning to preserve food should be essential. You may see an amazing price on store-bought vegetables or meat or fruit and want to preserve that in some way so that later on you're eating the really great sales price instead of the current non-sale price. It can save a ton of money in the long run. So learning to preserve that food should be a number one skill that you want to learn. I preserve food all year round, whether that's canning, freezing, or dehydrating. Right now, I am using my abundance of kale that is growing in the garden to steam it and freeze it in little cups for winter stews or stir fries or any dishes like that. I also make sure that I am freezing up the ribs of all of my kale and Swiss chard so that I can use that in broths and stews in the future as well. Once again, nothing goes to waste, and I'm certainly not going to let my kale go to waste in the garden if I can't seem to eat enough of it in salads, so it gets frozen for later. Once my comfrey and my plantain is dried for my salves, I put them both into jars so that I can cover them in olive oil. You can use olive oil or grapeseed oil or any oil really, but I prefer olive oil as it's nice on the skin. I have entire tutorial videos for both of these recipes, and I will make sure that I add them into the description box for you to go take a look at if you're wanting to learn to make these yourself. Once I have these leaves covered in oil, I add a weight, and then I'm going to put them in a cool, dark place to sit for 6 weeks. Another skill that I've learned to help me save money at home is to make my own soap. I've made olive oil soap, coconut oil soap, but today I've decided to make lard soap. It's an incredibly easy process, and I get some beautiful handmade soap at the end that costs just about $1 to make. It's not expensive in the least, and it gives me really good quality soap. My daughter has very sensitive skin and can only use good quality soap. The good quality soap you buy in the stores is about $8 a bar, where I can make mine for $1 a bar. The savings are incredible. During times like these, I think having more skills and learning to do more things for yourself is really important. Again, it makes sure that your family and your house is really resilient to any changes or any hardships that might come, because you're going to know how to look after them without relying on a store. You're going to be able to do these things without actually having to go to a store and pay the exorbitant prices that they want. The more skills you have, the less money you need. And that seems to hold true with many things. I know the soap makers out there may be shaking their heads at me right now because I am not going by the book for making this recipe. Technically, you're supposed to warm your lard and let it cool, as well as letting your water and lye mixture cool. However, I saw an elderly man make soap one time, and he just poured the hot lard or the hot lye into the lard and let it melt the lard. Well, it made soap, and I've honestly never gone back. I'm not sure why sometimes we make things so difficult. Sometimes I think that it's made difficult to stop others from making it. I know there's a bit of a conspiracy out about the Ball book and why we only ever go to Ball for canning. And many people are saying that's because they want to control what you're able to preserve, where many Mennonites will can and preserve things that the Ball book says is unsafe. So it's just, I think sometimes we make things really hard on ourselves unnecessarily. So you doing the soap like this, where I'm just adding the hot lye mixture to the lard and it melts the lye, takes 2 different steps out of it, and it makes it seem much simpler. Making our own soaps, our own salves, our own medicinal natural treatments for colds, flus, rashes, or small ailments, as well as drying our own herbs and teas, are all great ways to save money when times are hard. If you're looking for more frugal living ideas and ways to save around the house every day, I have an entire playlist to help you. I will link it right here. Go ahead and check that out. There are tons of ideas there. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I hope you are all doing really well, and I'll see you next time.